Hey, happy kiddos, it's Therapy Bear. I have been piling up hairs from my layer up on there, and now they're a stare. I can ascend, fight the glare with my hand rise to the sun, then I'm in now. I'm the sun bear, I'm doing what must needs be done. I am the sun bear. I'm out for some fun. I howl at the moon and growl at the sun. I find turnip greens and I know they're the one, because from the day of my birth I've been quite the good bear. When I go on long walks, your mom and sister, they stare. I like to go to a pigeon pool for my proper procedure, but when I partake of the pigeon preparation, people say, please consider the possibility that this pigeon has been picked for potential pigeon particulars that you have defenestrated in your grief and with your high angst to the wind. You have been wills and wills again for all of those things come to pass, but once in the silent well can of Midas scented purpose. Readjustment, oscillation, cannonball in the canyons of our youth. We crowd loud about those many 7 ships filled tall, wheat and barley. But when we grew silence in the dusk, we could hear the wind whip around the edges and the old dusty leaves clink like whiskey glasses in the night, and we grew afraid. But for the lonely heart to wander to do its flesh meet injustice, and on that day we all knew it as our own, selves made pure. How ineluctable did it? Find one on that day to rise slowly from the wrong side of the bed in fullness of purpose, and know that you at long last have truly woken up for the day, and we are here to sell the porcelain procedure that made your parasol immutable and permeable to the changes within and without that you yourself were incapable of fully denying. Oh, unruly skein of mind, and oh, unruly train of death. The fire trails left by your hazy embrace defile the memory even of time until nothing is left but an already pommeled beach where every grain has become a cloud from the bashing of the waves. And this is what you leave of me. This is what you've left behind. These are the pieces I have to reassemble what was once a thriving civilization from, and I have to do it with the memory of your laughter as the blood of my people drips from your teeth, and you ask me to stop singing about it so loudly because you are so hungover. I've written a psalm. It is called 456 as part of the numbers, and many doctors are telling me they've used these digits to do great things already. I haven't even finished the initial introduction yet. These doctors haven't completed the 456 tutorial, but they are already 678 smarter, because when you shove 3 digits of a 4-digit into your brain, you can calculate the missing numeral. You can find the missing numeric information, create a lattice work of numeric matrices, and then place them within and then expand them without and before too long. You've created a net of information and ensnared the globe within, and then you can subtract all numbers until you find the ultimate unity, which is, I believe, step 9 on the taco manifestation churn pump that leads to higher and higher levels. It was described to be somewhat of a spiritual funicular by my latest Gara, Miss Aura O, a Reiki mystic since birth. She was recently trained in the indoctrinary arts of Gold Gotha, where they keep all the silver Gothas and dip them in bronze, and then they use this sort of high-pressure hose that wheezes out tough bursts of air with high pounds per square inch, until the blend of bronze and silver gives the effect of a gold gilt to the young. But to the experienced metallurgist, all of these efforts are for naught, because those trained in the arts of alloys and such know full well what they are seeing, and no artistry yet devised by man can take that knowledge away from the gifted metallurgist. And you, through the assumption that such a thing could even remotely be possible, have defamed not just the name and reputation of individual metallurgists, but what you have done in a single crushing blow is denounce the entire like human endeavor of metallurgy, and the number of enemies you have instantly made are just completely untenable, and they're not tethered to any gold standard. Like yoking, they do not have to stay. They do not have to wait to accumulate these. Metallurgists can train other metallurgists on the way as they form a mob of pitchfork and torch-wielding villagers that crawls to your house to exact vengeance most foul upon your physical and spiritual frame. While they do this, while they crawl towards the slouching womb that birthed their disgrace, by which I mean you, yourself and your diseased mind, you will recruit still other metallurgists who will be fresh in their fury for you, and they will redeem their biscuits on broken lines because you will be nothing but a pile of bone dust reduced to atoms by their hate, which you have welcomed upon yourself and visited upon your own frame. You will wind the crowd into such a fury that disaffected youth will flock to hear the tale of the scorned metallurgists, and you will find yourself on the receiving end of a beat-down most foul, and you'll say, because those of the pain will sting. Each illuminatory burst of agony in your skull brings you one step closer to the God you fear. And that is the first exciting feeling you've had in your heart since 1971, when Chicken Presley looked at you in the crowd and said, "Bok bok boo gok." It was 16. Summers ago, when full-feathered Friendly had himself a big old biscuit bisque. And at that quick cake, you took the risk of tracking himself back to Lakers later, where he found himself a double diamond in the dirt. But you very carefully stepped up behind the man, spun him in 6 circles, until he saw Swirly convinced himself that there was only one diamond, and he was seeing double by throwing a twin brother out of your conjoined spinal column, where they infused in the womb, expanding him with your love, animating him with your mind, and then letting him fall back to dust, just as the Bible instructed at the end of the charade, when the second of the binary double diamond set had become yours, and your mark had become even dizzier this time, with the agonizing sorrow of the loss. Such a fantastically faceted diamond, and this is where it starts. This is the kind of pain that one drags with themselves for the rest of forever. It's the kind of pain one cannot forget because it is ever present. It is the kind of pain that sears itself into. One soul makes itself at home there and then subscribes to the newspaper. It's the kind of pain that burns away the humanity you work so hard to cultivate, and then you sit back and you say cheese in the wind, and then you sit back and you know that smells not cheese, but you don't dare to think what else it may be. And you know that cheese isn't as bad, but when it comes Jesus on the thing and you realize it's worse than you thought, and it is bound up within itself, everything that brought you comfort, all the dairy curds, they're gone now. They're gone to you and me, because those errors, those epochs of the earth, they have come to a crashing conclusion, my friend. The salutary biscuits that refract your own desperate commodities are little bud trinkets in the long-term unassailable chimney sweep of life. There can be only few bolts that mock the waves, but these waves have tenacious grudges that they wield like cuddles in the face of their oppressors, even onto the seventh sun. So we will not be a serried claw unless you back it up with a fist of hammers, each tipped with a lightning bolt. Dart of pure poison, because without expunging the wreckage, they will never drip dry in the fires of your youth. They will only remain akindled and liable to spring back into action and reclaim your mental forest. Just as the buds were beginning to sprout, flame spreads, and ore spreads. As long as it is fed, and it will eat all, if it is hungry. So we got to be a little chill with the ice cubes, and we can't risk ourselves any funny stuff because Jupiter Crow doesn't give long speeches. But Jupiter Crow also seldom remains silent. So we have to find the violet shade of the rainbow and twist it up a notch to hide it from this man's predatory eyes. Because if he sees the hue of which we speak, it will be the cry of the ages as it is drained from our soul. If purple were gone, where would we be on an ocean blue, on a sky pea, afloat upside down forever, in a piss abyss that sucks my soul out just to picture? Please step back from this great beyond. Do not tort her forward on your feet, nor backwards for the strip of dry land that suspends us above this Picayune. Chasm is as deep and boundless and scooped out as a hollow puppy's soul, and you are on a tiny little land. Mind that if you scoot a millimeter to the front or the back and shift but 1 micron of your weight, you'll become a magnanimous hacky sack, and you will be but mere happenstance to the day's current events, and you will log into your Ameriplus Pure account and find that you have actually been Canadian negative 50 and 16. And you will not be pure, and the Canadian water hurts you because you realize it's some deep part of your body that you might, in fact, be invested by a demon, because there's nothing particular that you had something more and mobile in mind. And I think you move around too much to really mean what you say about immobility. And if that's not you, if you're hearing what I'm saying and you're like, doesn't ring the bell, then you need to involve yourself a little more deeply in your reflections. Because I'm trying to ask you to consider that you are a frog and you are a Lego walrus display. And you might be in some kind of store that you don't picture fully. But when you do finally step back and see the silent sequence for what it may or may not be, you'll be like, oh, this is not the fire I started. This is one of the tributaries burning in my soul that led me to make the outside world reflective of my inner turmoil, and now I think I have a chance not to spread this fire but to quell it. And isn't that a gift? And isn't it one that you've spent in the face of over 457 times, laughing about how foolhardy such gifts assume the recipient to be? And isn't that why Scott Hackerman burled his edges at one winter? Because all the crayons and crowns that he bibbed did know. And if they didn't, why would they? And if nobody he saw rebibbed in that fashion, then what did the bib not know? And these are why many wheels turn for the ages. But they don't have to, and they never really planned on bringing it sideways. But what they didn't do instead was a sort of slumber remainder that fractionalized the sleep even that they have. And when there was two loaves split, even the children could see they did not become full. So the mathematical certainties that began to accrete in society during this decade, we're not felt equally by all corners of society for quite some time, and after some time it passed. There was even more time until other things with less quiet. We take the taco to task for a number of seasonings, chief among them being King Soda Pop, who didn't leave me anything in his will but thank the maker. He didn't take anything away either, and that is the takeaway I bring with me everywhere I go. Because this Tuesday in live is the only way, and we can't live if we don't survive away. And how are we going to get away from life if we can't even survive long enough to live our way there? Easily remedied, we turn into a bug. We turn into a boat, return into a soup, and in this way we do justice to our flaming beliefs and to the framing of forebears foisted upon us. Because without that framing, we wouldn't know where the edge of our picture stopped, and we would allow all the environmental elements to be part of our portrait. And if that's the case, I don't want to even sheep anymore, because the goats aren't doing it for me lately. I don't think they've been doing it for you, and I think you have been keeping up this happy facade because you don't know what else to do. And I understand that I don't respect it, because I think it's being driven by fear. But I do understand it, and have I ever said, I think it is. I still understand that it is your right to flee and hide. It is the ostrich's right to stick its head in the dirt, and I can't judge you, but I can't I could kidnap you and sort of try to force you to say things by way, but I just don't. What would be the value in that? You know, you're already kind of pointless because you don't get this. Why wouldn't I just kidnap someone who I agreed with, and that they'd be a lot more helpful to me to have in my bunker right now than to have just a naysayer like you constantly holding me back saying I can't keep you in that room. I don't need more people screaming what I can't do with me until they start. Okay, that's not fair to them. Well, it's what they deserve, but it's not fair in the sense of who would want that to happen, right? And it's not fair to me because I don't go through all the trouble and all the risk of doing this just so that the people can freaking yell at me. I'm not sure what the end game here is. I don't seem to be getting any better at taking care of the subjects. I'm not really getting anything useful from the experiment. It's just I think I'm just doing it for something to do. Not because I'm bored, but just because, this time of year you're inside a lot. Think anything that connects me to the outside world is just like a benefit. So what's the most possible connection I can get to the outside world? A bunch of random people? I don't know, from outside my house, it's like I'm trying to expand my horizons and really try to understand. We've been told we don't understand that the concerns of the Trump voter and stuff, so what I do, kidnapping some of them are trouble. Some of them are, I don't go, I don't target. I find out about the people once we get them back, and that's when the learning happens. But there's just so many social roadblocks. Like, I need to find a way of finding and getting people where they aren't, like, so focused on why and what they're doing there. You know, like, why are you doing this? It's gonna ruin the experiment. You know I can't. It's so hard. I can't tell them the actual answer, because how can it be an experiment like you? Can't say to the moose, like, you're an amazing. We're trying to get you to fin the cheesa. So we want to see how fast you can learn the maze, and whether you remember it after you've learned it the bit. It's not science. That's like a high school production of My Fair Lady Gone Wrong. Science, we need to know what these people actually think, but that's why I'm making up. The cover story is so difficult, because if I tell him what's really happening, you're in an experiment by blah, they won't act right. But if I come up with plausible stories so that they don't know, it freaks them out even more, and there's not much you can say, like, you won a free Tupperware set doesn't quite work when they're manacled to the wall.